My name's Kimberly. I work as a business development professional in the tech industry, mainly in software. Where do I worship? I am a regular member of New Beginnings Uniting. I have been for almost 2 years. I lead a women's Bible study at NBU. We're currently studying Esther and hoping to study different leaders within the Bible, and also around certain things like anxiety, strength in times of difficulty. And I also help when I can with the young adults, just if they need me to do the sort of grunt work. And I help Simon, Carrie, and Caleb sometimes with reading the Bible on Sunday mornings. The answer to that would be no, because I'm a firm believer that you have a moment at which you choose. So I was very privileged in that I grew up in a Christian home with parents who asked me to go to church with them every Sunday. My whole family, many of them are Christians, but they were firm from the very beginning, saying, this is a choice that we want you to make individually. So I chose around the age of 11, 12, I don't know the exact date, to make a commitment to God. And then it's kind of a nice thing. I have 2 younger sisters, and we decided to all get baptized together. So we all got baptized together in the same church that my parents still currently attend, Christ Community Church, Laguna Hills. And I made a public statement in front of probably about 100, 150 people that I was going to commit my life to God, and I became baptized. So that was when I started becoming a follower, if you will, and tried to put into action what I could. I can say one thing for myself: I'm not a passive believer. So that's why I say I don't understand myself as committing to Christ until around 12, because it was a commitment. I sat down and prayed individually. I think my parents were there, but then I prayed individually. And then when I decided to become baptized, I wanted to become baptized immediately. As my understanding of baptism is that it's death to the old life and life to your new walk with Christ. And I can't say that there was one defining moment, only because maybe this is because I had such a happy childhood. So I don't have a big tragic event that propelled me to really look from darkness into light. But I believe that I have had many of those moments throughout the rest of my life. And I can also say that I'm really thankful and grateful that I became a Christian around that age, because right after around 11, 12 is when I was bullied quite intensely for many years. And I did turn to God very often in that, which I think was pretty much a defining moment of my early years as a Christian, which I'm very glad that I had. Have I ever had a moment where I've recommitted myself? I don't think I've had an aha moment as such. But what I will say is that I've had some very dark times where I felt very much, I wouldn't say depressed, but alone. And a lot of that has stemmed from the fact that a lot of this comes from my sort of desire to serve the community, serve people. I started doing that when I was very young, and it's been an extremely rewarding thing. So one of the things that I was able to do was, when I was still a teenager, I went to Mexico, and that kind of, I think, spurred me on to want to go overseas, to travel further and to help communities that were not in a privileged part of the world. I grew up in Southern California, which is like a bubble of middle class and upper middle class kids. So I guess I really wanted to know how I might be able to help in some possible way. And one of those challenging times, I lived in Africa for 3 years. My first 2 years were in Mozambique, and I was working for a construction firm where I was responsible for the social enterprise. So we did some nutrition programming, some to work against malaria. And it was, like I say, extremely rewarding, but it was a very harsh environment, tropical. You had to wear a lot of, as the Australians say, the PPE, but that was just the basics. The hard part was the fact that it was a male-dominated space and there were very few other women, and that's not a big deal from the surface, but you quickly realize after the first 6 months that you have very few people that you can talk to, both men or women, but in particular, I think everyone needs friends who they can call if they're having a good day or a bad day. And I had very few of those, so my faith was pretty significant in getting me through a challenging time. And again, I think that time is very much a defining moment for me as a person, and I'm glad I did it, but it can be very lonely. And I think being a Christian was very important, and it was probably one of maybe 2 times that I really said to God, I really need to commit to you and trust you, because I don't know how the next day is going to be, how the next month is going to be, how I can be optimistic and joyful when I don't feel as such. When I serve the community currently in Sydney, I'm not doing as much as I would like. But I volunteered for the food bank and so on, just little things. And I think for me, the number one thing about service is that it humbles you. You might not do something you enjoy. You might be packing a box like New Beginnings does on Christmas time for Operation Christmas Child. You could be on the warehouse floor picking up food to get shipped to charities like the food bank does. You could be an activist for a cause that you care about, picking up trash on the beach. I think it's not very glamorous work, which is kind of what I like about it, is it makes me feel like I'm not serving something that's gonna make me look good, which I think, unfortunately, society places an emphasis on the individual and getting the satisfaction out of each moment. And when I serve, I don't feel that at all. So sometimes I feel happy, but not always, and I don't mind that. So, I mean, I guess back to what I was saying earlier about not being a passive Christian. At the core of that, I'm really the kind of person who's genuinely curious about the world. I want to know why things are the way they are, how things are built, why things are made, why a person is the way they are. And I think that nature has enabled me to be someone who reads a lot, consumes a lot, and my faith is no different. So one of the ways that God has used me, I think, is in my friendships with other people. I've become friends with many people who are not Christian, so some who are Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, and I have long, intense conversations with these people, some who are struggling with their faith or don't know what to believe. And I think because I approach it from a standpoint of sort of respect, and I ask a lot of questions, they feel empowered to ask questions as well. And I think, you know, I've seen some Christians who really are really good at being able to provoke a good, productive conversation, and some that really struggle with it. And I think I've been very lucky in that something that is a gift God seems to have given me, I can use when my friendships with people. One time where this has actually come to fruition is a teenager who I was friends with in high school. His name is Phil. Him and I became close over a couple of years, and then he went off to university and so did I, and both of us were struggling with our first year of uni, so we corresponded a lot back in the day just by email. There were no cell phones or text messages. And so I only saw him, I think, once or twice that year. He went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and we were still best friends regardless of the fact that we went to 2 schools. But he was a staunch atheist, really into science, didn't believe in anything. An American guy with a Chinese background, and I think he just really, he always was questioning things, but I sort of inspired in him a curiosity to know why God either existed or didn't exist. And that particular year, some difficult things happened for him. And so the end of that year, we spoke, and he said, I'm really struggling, Kimmy. I'm glad we're friends. And I said, absolutely. And he didn't become a Christian for another year after that. But when he did, I think it was between 1 to 2 years after, he approached me and said that I was actually a key reason why he felt compelled to pursue it, that he wanted to know that, he wanted to know who God was. And that's a pretty special thing to have someone tell you, I don't feel that I was the person, but I was one, stopping point, one marker that God used to point him in the right direction. And that's a pretty powerful thing to feel. And him and I are still good friends to this day. He's married a wonderful woman. They live just a few kilometers from my parents' house and have a beautiful, intelligent daughter. And I'm just really happy for him. He's just also a much more joyful person, and also, really smart guy as well. So, yeah, I think that was pretty powerful. And I guess the other thing that I would add to that is many years later, before I left the United States, I was struggling with my own personal challenges. I've got sucked into maybe a little bit too much partying, having too much fun. I was in my 20s and being careless. And he had actually approached me and said, Kimmy, I'm really concerned about you. I'm not sure you're following the path you should, and I pray for you all the time. And so I feel like God used him in particular to bring it full circle. Like, I was helpful for him, but he was also helpful for me. So I never in these moments think that it's me, it's God working through both of us to help each other and point us in the right direction. I think when someone approaches you and tells you that they were inspired by you to approach God or to think about believing or to believe, it's incredibly inspiring. I'm sure I didn't know what to feel at the time because it can be a little bit shocking. There's an allegory that we use, I don't know why, I don't even know if it's a true story, of a boy who was struggling with depression I think he was 16, and one of his friends, or not even a friend, someone he was approached by had said, hey, I hope you're having a good day, see you tomorrow. And that was the day that he was going to go home and commit suicide. And because that one person reached out to him and said, hey, I want to see you tomorrow, it changed his life. They became best friends. And again, I'm not sure if the story is even true. It's been passed on, through oral tradition. And I just love that idea that we're all there for each other, and that any one person, just your one friendship with one person, that one conversation is valuable. And that in itself is maybe a difficult emotion to express because it's so much. It makes you feel like, we're all kind of looking for how we can, contribute to the world, that we're kind of valuable, that we're loved, that we mean something to each other, that we can help each other out. And this is one of those things that, can make you feel all those things. Maybe sad and happy at the same time. And again, I know people like to think of someone outside their family, but I guess I'm very blessed that I have such a strong family, if you will. And one person in particular that I can think of is my aunt, Yvonne, who is Dutch. We call her Tante Funny. She is one of the last living sort of members of my family who's in that sort of grandparent generation. All my other grandparents are gone except one. She's my grandmother's sister, and I've been living in Australia for almost 5 years now, and so I usually only get to come home like once a year to visit the US. And the last time I was home, we were having lunch, no, maybe not even. The last time, it might have even been further along, 3 years ago. And we were having lunch together, her and my cousin Fran, who's also very important to me, and had lunch, and afterwards she was like, Kimberly, just don't forget God, and it's like such a small thing, but when it comes from someone you trust, someone you respect and ideally love, which I do with her, and she's got kind of a warrior spirit, you know, really gentle but somehow really strong. Has survived World War II, and just someone I really admire. For someone to say that when you know they've been through some really tough times, it's just a reminder that it's easy to get caught up in your life, whatever it is, your relationships, your you know, your Netflix streaming thing that you got all the movies you're gonna watch, and work, and you know, people say, I'm busy, I'm full, I have these things. Yes, you do, you have a life, you have to pay the bills, but you also need to stop and remember that if you are a Christian, I guess I take that to heart, that I always need to do a little look at my own life and say, am I putting things in the right place? Am I remembering God because He remembers us? So yeah, that was special. It's one of probably many things she said to me to remind me to be the kind of person that I should be. But yeah, that's one person who's very special, and God has definitely used her. Coming to Sydney a couple years ago was a choice I made after living on the West Coast, and it was a big decision, both personally and professionally. So, you know, moving is not such a difficult thing for me, but for me, living in a new place, it's always about the friendships that you gain, and I guess I just feel very privileged to have met some very special people. People behind the camera, Josh and Alyssa, Caleb, Morgan, numerous people at the church that have really become special to me and continue to be, and I just feel very blessed that I'm part of the community, and you know, sort of grow in everyone's growing in different ways, and it's just exciting to see that. But yeah, I think that's an important part of being a member of New Beginnings is connecting with everyone, and I just feel very lucky.